o'clock. Why don't we call this meeting to order, okay?
Okay.
All right. Privilege of the floor.
Okay,
Mr. Floor, have you got anything?
I do, that's the reason I came.
Good.
Recently, we had door-to-door solicitation in town.
Really?
Yeah, I had our common.
What are you selling?
I'm not selling a thing.
Oh.
And I don't need to put a name to it, I just object to door-to-door solicitation. Period.
Do we have an ordinance against door-to-door solicitation?
I looked, I couldn't find it.
I believe you're supposed to get a license, right?
Well, this particular solicitation does not require a license because it's under the freedom of religion.
The Jehovah's were here.
Yes.
Yes.
Ah.
I don't know if there's anything we can do.
can't.
Oh, I know how to
I don't.
I know how to get rid of
But
it.
my point
Oh, no,
is,
you remember now, you're on camera.
I do.
my
I'll
point
tell you later how to get rid of it.
My point is, though, I mean, we'll put bulletproof glass in the school, right?
Yes.
Strangers coming in, something happening,
Right.
whatever. Yet, and because it's religion, we can't stop them from going to, okay, well,
Well, you're not
part.
required to answer your door. I mean, there's no ordinance that says you have to answer your
But Bill,
door.
you know, a lot of people around here, you go to the
Sure.
post office, the door's open, you work in your gardens, the doors are open.
Right.
I'm picking up flyers in our parking lot, and I mean, there is no benefit to the town for door-to-door solicitation, period. We're inviting strangers in, and we don't do background checks on them, obviously, so, I mean, who knows who's coming in? They just come to town and say, we're a religious organization, so we have the right to do it, and it's okay.
I don't even think, I believe there is an ordinance that does say.
Well, it's off-premise solicitation, just like.
Off-premise solicitation does require a license.
Right, we went through this with that stupid bounce thing.
But I agree with Mark that I'm not sure that we can extend that to a religious organization doing it under, I mean, we could
it's
ask
one
town
thing-
attorney, Mark, I mean.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
we
one
don't-
thing for them to have a meeting and invite people. It's
Yeah.
another thing to go on everybody else's property.
But couldn't you call the police and tell them they're here and the police remove them from doing that?
I don't know. I mean, so let's say Golden Eagle, private property, right? So they go in, they can solicit all, I don't know how many units, right up and down the elevators.
I
I
saying
think
is,
that would
can
be
we
the
call-
policy of, I don't know whether you raise a point. If the Golden Eagle wanted to stop them from walking around the halls, I have no idea if they have a right to do it. What's clear to me is the town would not have a right to say the Golden Eagle can or cannot allow that to happen.
So how about a person with a house,
Yeah.
private property in a home? They can say there's no solicitation allowed on my property?
I believe you can.
But I have the right, if someone comes to my door and solicits me, and bothers me, I have the right to call the police and go, hey, this guy's soliciting me. And we do have a no solicitation, off-premise solicitation law.
We do.
We do, it's
Well,
on the
Bob,
book.
I hear what you're saying. We would have to, Mark will make a note.
Yep.
Check with town attorney. I don't know. We'll start with even legally whether we can do it. Then there's a practical problem, but let's deal with the legal issue first.
Another angle would be, we have a condo association meeting, our annual, coming up next month.
Right.
Can we as an association pass an amendment to our bylaws or whatever, law says there's no solicitation on our
Sure.
property? So then we
Is it legal? I don't know, but you certainly could pass it.
Yeah. And then I think you would come into the selectmen and
get a sign permit.
get a
that says
sign
no
permit that
solicitation.
says no solicitation
Station allowed.
allowed.
Is that
and
legal?
I believe you have that.
I don't know. I'm guessing you certainly have the right to do that, as an association.
I mean, the other alternative is you got a big dog and tie him outside, right?
As long as he's on a leash.
Yeah.
Hey.
Could be if the dog might want to hear the message.
But, so we'll look at that, into that map with the
Yep.
town attorney?
Yeah, but
I'll check on
and you could put up a sign that says there is no solicitation allowed. But I do not know if the town can restrict someone. But we'll ask the question.
But isn't it, it's not solicitation by certain organizations. There's
No, we can't.
See,
tell
like,
you.
I'll give you another
About
example.
phone
Suppose a political candidate was going door to door.
Right.
Right.
Can we stop them? I don't think so.
Don't
but
Suppose I'm the
let's check.
agent for the candidate, I can go around town, door to door,
I,
for the, as an agent
I
for the candidate?
think as long, I believe you can,
You could
yes.
say if you were looking to have someone sign a petition for something.
Yeah,
You have the right to. But
Yeah,
I think,
but
I
I
think
think
you probably do.
unless it's marked no solicitation, don't come to our door.
But
If
you would have the right to
mark-
put that sign up.
Right.
We will check
Yeah.
with the town attorney as to the limits, but I believe when it comes to, because we're wrestling with this same issue relative to signs. Suppose
Right.
somebody wants to put a sign up that says God saves. I don't know if we can say, on their own property, not on town property, but on their own property. I don't know if we can say you can't do that.
It's a town ordinance number 9.
We'll try to find out.
Is that a zoning reg, Mark?
No, it's a separate ordinance that town meeting adopted in 1990.
That says what, it's allowed, or?
It's
Requires you to get a
it
permit
requires you to get a permit.
from
and
the
it's-
Board of Selectmen.
It includes any manner of uninvited personal approach or solicitation for any purpose.
Well, I don't understand
But
why the town didn't permit anybody.
Because,
What's the
let me give you an
benefit?
example. We do it because it covers such things as somebody running like the Black Fly event. There were people that were soliciting for business. In other words, come to my booth and buy XYZ kind of thing. And we have granted permits to allow people to do that. So there are legitimate cases where and it was described as the area would occur, around the dock on Corcoran's Pond or something. Yeah, we've allowed that in the past, and we would continue to allow that, I think.
But I believe there are classes of protected
Right. Well,
people, organizations, speech, whatever you want to
you
call it.
deserve an answer. We'll
We'll get
check
an
with town
answer.
attorney and
Yeah.
see if it applies to
Yeah, okay.
religious and political solicitation.
All right.
Okay, anything else? Approval of the minutes of July 9th. Does anybody have any changes, additions?
I didn't see anything.
I saw two things, and let me see if I can find where they were. I know on the item number 2, I remember this one, the word should be previous, not pervious. There was a section in there where we were talking about, what the hell were we talking about? I can't remember. Hold on, wait a minute. Under section 7, there's we were talking about the possibility of the Wyman's, of creating an historical site. I'd ask you to remove the sentence that refers to a town green. I don't think it makes any sense the way it's in there, and I think easiest just take the sentence out. Those are the only 2 changes I noted. Wait.
I just had one, but it's not a big deal. In Department of Public Safety sign zoning issues, if there is a property owner who still has a non-compliant sign, the Board of Selectmen gives them 2 weeks to prepare a ZBA to take the sign down. If there is, I would say, it just doesn't ring right, the word if there is. But I can live with it.
If there are non-conforming signs, how about that?
If there is a property, I would just go existing signs that are not, well, it's fine, just leave it, just didn't run right, but not that.
Or existing non-conforming signs?
That's
Okay. All right.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Financial update, Mark?
Yes, I provided you with the report. There are no departments that are unexpectedly over. I highlighted a few of the line items for you on here. Town buildings, that includes $10,000 for the gazebo. That's why that's at 64%.
Okay.
I'm sorry, we're currently at 57.7% through the year. Insurance is on the premium payment schedule. We will not be expending, we've been notified by Primex that we will not be receiving any further bills this year. Because of premium returns, and in fact, we're probably going to get a check in September, which will be applied and will increase this balance of $17,000.
How much is the?
I believe the check is somewhere around $10,000 additional reimbursement,
And what does that come in under, Mark?
miscellaneous revenue, or we can
Okay.
apply it to this line item. Either way, it goes to fund balance.
Okay.
Why are we getting so much back? What's changed?
Because they were under the same order that the LGC was under to return money premiums.
Okay, so this
that
has nothing
they
to do with our
charge us.
budget
No,
process. This is
No,
just,
this is a legal case being settled.
so this is a settlement. This has got nothing to do with
That's
the
correct.
way we budget.
That's right.
All right.
Police and fire are slightly ahead. We have made our full year payment to our dispatch center and mutual aid service, so that's why those are slightly above. Patriotic purposes, that's fireworks, that's paid for 100%. Debt service and anticipation notes, those are ahead because of amortization schedule payments. The final thing is under revenue for the rec department. We have already collected July month to date about $16,900. We do have outstanding bills. This does not include the WVRA Summer Unlimited for the boats. So there's some money in there.
Today for June.
Yeah,
Today
so
has-
we still have the month of July and
Yeah,
that
July
June
hasn't
thing.
been billed yet.
Right, so, so we're starting to catch up there.
Okay.
We're having a pretty good year.
Good.
Hey, Mark, should we be at all concerned that revenue is at 41.37 versus where we are in the year? Is that normal that we have that big a gap at this time of year?
Yeah.
Because I was thinking we just collected half of the taxes, so.
Well, but taxes are not included in these numbers.
This is everything
Oh, okay.
other than.
This is everything other than taxes.
Okay,
So we've got state revenues, out of 25,000, we've only collected 4,500. Water and sewer are at about 50%, so we've got another 50%, those numbers again to be
Mhm.
added in.
mm-hmm,
Payments in miscellaneous revenues will include tax payments by the arena and things like that. So we know that we're going to be $240,000 short on revenue because we used fund balance. So that number will stay zero.
mm-hmm,
Okay, so we've built in being short on revenues $240,000.
okay.
Okay. All right, moving right along. Department head updates. Recreation. Yay!
It's you.
You're the only department head here?
Yeah, for right now. You've got
So
your
the summer
report
camp numbers?
on summer camp numbers.
Yeah.
Wanna talk to those, Rachel?
Sure. Let's see, the first 2 weeks we were down in attendance, but the last 2 weeks we've been up in attendance. And our Wings camp group from last year was pretty low in attendance throughout the course of the summer. And this year, we certainly have quite an increase in that group, almost on a daily. So that's been a good adjustment there, or a good change. The Summit Camp group, which we started last year, which is a teen group, that continues to be not as well attended as last year on a regular basis, but certainly still well attended. It's been a good addition to the camp program.
And, if you look year to year, week 3, we were up 33, almost over 30%. If you look at week 4, we're up about 10%.
But still off
But
17%
we're
on
off
the 10-year.
17 on the average, on the 10-year average.
Mhm.
But we have, very big years in there, and they tend to skew
Yeah.
it, so.
Well, I would, I look at these numbers, it would strike me that over a 10-year period, there has been a, declining trend. But they're still big numbers. I'm not particularly concerned about the summer.
One of the, a couple of factors, we did have quite a few participants in the last 3 years or so that would participate from the Campton and Thornton area.
Yeah.
The Thornton, and Campton, they've definitely done up their program a little bit more over the past couple of years. Specifically Thornton, their A+ program, they really see quite a bit of attendance now with their community versus those kids now
Right.
traveling up. So we see very few of those kids now. On the, different note here, that it seems as though there are some more the second property homeowners buying and coming into the program. So some new faces, some new families over the last 2 to 3 years.
Good.
So while we lose some of the attendances from the surrounding communities, Rutherford Valley has gained some new families.
Well, and I think we're definitely still being impacted by Gordon research. I know it's a good thing for lodging and to have people around the valley, but those are non-users of our rec programs. No, I mean, that's just, that continues to be an observation.
Well, my observation would also be that, we could talk to the Resort Association, that the concept of people coming for a week's vacation in the summer and renting a place is slowly dying, if not dead. I mean, there just aren't very many people who do that anymore. They may come for a long weekend, but they're not.
How did the Ugata Regatta that got some press, was it attended or?
Similar to how it's been in past years, fun, nothing over the top by any means. The laser tag program continues to be popular as a new evening program. The climbing wall has been well attended this summer compared to the winter time.
How's pickleball going? Are they
Pickleball
playing
is
tennis?
non-existent this summer.
Yeah, they're playing tennis.
Fickle.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, I would suspect that'd be the case.
And how about boat numbers?
Boat numbers have been up every month,
Yeah.
both
They're-
May and
they're
June.
really
So,
I'm
Is it the
just
quality of your
curious.
staff?
I'm sorry.
Quality of your staff?
The quality of the staff.
Is that why the numbers are up?
That's why the numbers.
Oh yes.
Did your
yes.
son stop working?
I don't think he ever worked there. He does show up.
I'm just curious with the changing nature of what people do on vacation. Do you ever get people inquiring about why we don't run these on the weekends?
The camp program? No, I haven't actually.
Okay. All right. I'm just curious.
Do you have days when, because these
Well,
are summer
I-
kids, would this be something we could look at?
Well,
We definitely could. Some of the comments that we've received over the years with people being on vacation
yeah.
is that they're not looking to send their kid to camp while they're on vacation.
Oh,
For
okay.
the most part.
All right.
I mean, there is always the families that
Yeah.
do that. We've had
Right.
a couple of them actually this summer that have done that. But that's been a lot of the feedback that we've received is that they're
Okay.
here on vacation, they're not looking to,
To get rid of their kids.
right, they're looking to spend time together.
Okay.
On the boat rentals, on the busy times, where there are more people than the number of boats that could probably be on water,
Right.
do they like say, okay, you're going to come back at 1 o'clock or something? And your time is
Everything just to keep things kind of fair is a first come, first serve. So if someone's they can wait for a boat, but they can't reserve. The only one
Yeah,
they
But we limit the
we had a
time
pro-
that they're out.
we had a problem with Grandkids one time that was going back, I don't know, last year or something, that we showed up, and I forget exactly what happened, but I mean, you can't hang around for like an hour and a half waiting for the boat.
Right.
I don't get on those days why, it's a number system or something, and if you're not there at a lot of time, then you lose your spot, but,
Well, it's something I'd certainly look into, I
I mean, you
think.
probably don't have that many packed days, but
The
weekends mostly.
weekends we do, but, right, it's,
I mean,
something we don't run into.
whether it's my grandkids or somebody else,
right.
it just doesn't seem fair to have somebody hanging around for an hour and a half. I mean,
Why?
Huh?
If you wanted to go to
Well,
the
they don't,
movies, you have
that's
to
the thing,
stand
they
in
don't
line for the
have to
hour.
wait, they don't,
If the
that's
ticket
so
office
they can
wasn't open.
kind of check back in at a later time and see if the line is,
Yeah, but what happens is, okay, but everybody else in line moves up because you left the line.
right.
I just,
No,
I,
something to certainly look into.
I just thought that some kind of a number system or something. And,
But then you get people showing up who don't see a line and come in and get pissed off because they didn't know they could have left a
Right.
number.
Well,
There's a no win to it.
It's an aspect of it that we're.
Yeah, I don't know.
We just found the first come, first served to be the easiest and fairest way when dealing with the groups, but it's not, it's something to certainly look into for sure. I mean, things can always be improved or changed.
I have also had one citizen ask me why the town could not construct additional storage racks that we would then, for kayaks, that we would then rent to people for the season so they could put their own personal kayak there. And have you had anyone else ever ask for anything like that?
One person,
Just one person, okay. I just trying to keep the
Same.
numbers straight. Right. But, I mean, if there were a demand,
Yeah,
I
if there was
mean,
a
I'd be-
demand, we
I'd look at it.
certainly-
But one person is one person.
right, and that could be something I would recommend to be certainly done, but off and away from the boat
Yeah,
rentals.
right,
because
yeah. It's just a place to
participants or
store a
people
kayak.
see those boats and they wonder why they
And you
can't.
could rent it for the
Right.
season. Okay. All right. Well, if we get to 2 or 3.
So start doing boathouses.
Yeah, well, that's a thought
No
too.
electricity, I don't want to burn down.
Okay. Other department heads. I don't know whether, I'd like to bring it up now,
Sure.
relative to the situation with the syphilis water.
Yes,
What is the situation? Joe says that he went several days last winter of no water because the
Yeah.
town's water line froze.
in the turnaround
Yeah,
is the sewer line and the water line.
right.
The water line is crossed over
The sewer
by,
line or something, right,
over by a 2-foot culvert.
right.
It's only 6 feet 9 inches in depth, which means there's actually only 4 feet 9 inches of cover.
Right.
We are trying to come up with a plan to either, one, relocate the culvert, or insulate the water line
Line.
under the culvert.
Right.
Dana White is working on both of those
Okay.
proposals for us right now.
Okay, good.
So we're trying
To
to,
come up with an answer. It would seem to me from the perspective,
Yeah.
we need to come up with a
Oh, yeah,
solution.
we
I mean,
will.
It's all
Yes.
lines.
Yeah.
Didn't we think we had this fixed like 3 years ago?
we did insulate it some more, but it froze again last year, and he was without water for maybe 4 days. While we tried to get it unfrozen, we had 2 different companies come up here. Bill and Jim spent the majority of those 4 days trying to get it fixed.
Okay, so
So
you'll give us an update
I will.
before the winter season comes?
Yes, we
Okay.
will have it addressed as well as we can before winter.
Okay. Are there any other issues regarding, any other questions the selectmen have regarding, let's start with roads and all that stuff, roads and we get to public safety. We got this letter
Yeah.
requesting the walkways at the school.
Crosswalks.
Crosswalks. I have a question, and it just never struck me. We do not, I don't believe, have a sign that says 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, right?
For the school zone.
Zone.
We have not created a school zone that is within your purview.
Why would we not want to do that? Is there a reason why we would not want to have a school zone here?
I can't think of any.
I mean,
They have it
I'm
in-
not sure about the specifics of the letter, but it would seem to me if we were gonna spend $100,000 to put bulletproof glass in, we have a higher likelihood that a kid will get run over by a car.
Sure, absolutely.
I'd like you to ask Chris
Mhm.
as to his recommendation as to whether we should or should not create a school zone,
And where it should be.
particularly on the main road.
Yes,
There are a number of kids that do walk, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Bill, would that require, what, was like other school zones, when the lights blinking?
Well, I don't know how we
lights
notify
blinking, that
people,
sort
but-
of thing. Yeah,
Because it's only certain times, you know, not while they're in class, right? Or,
Well, no, it's only, you'd only want to restrict speeds to, less than, I guess they're 20 mile an hour usually during periods when kids would be out.
right.
right.
So I'm just saying, that would probably require some kind of blinking
Sure.
light to notify the motorists.
But I would imagine that it's not uncommon for kids playing in the playground to run out in that road, right?
Right.
It's got to happen,
It does.
you know? So let's ask Chris if he would give us his input and include in that, I'm assuming, what he wants to do with this question about the crosswalk.
Yeah.
I'll respond back to that individual that we are looking at, we're going to have public safety look at creating a school zone, what the implications of that would be, and whether we need specifically crosswalks
Okay,
as well.
okay.
Anything else for public safety? Any other questions?
Just a note, because I read the thing about how, if we put a crosswalk on Valley Road, there was a problem because there wasn't a turn down.
No turn downs, there are no defined sidewalks on the Realty side of Valley Road.
Right, but we did put a crosswalk down by the golf area.
We did, Chris
With
didn't
the
like
sidewalk on
doing
one
that.
side and,
That's right,
and nothing on the other,
that's right.
yeah.
We did do it,
And we have a
need
couple
to-
of them on, if they're not marked, but the green ones where people cross with their golf carts.
Yeah, that's done by is done because of the golf course.
Right.
And is really part of the golf course, not an official crosswalk per se, like our
Yeah.
town is.
Okay.
But we,
But, I just thought it was worth pointing out that
Yeah.
certainly we have had crosswalks that didn't go sidewalk to sidewalk.
Right.
I think, whenever I hear about crosswalks and that kind of thing, I'm reminded, somebody once asked, I think it was President Eisenhower, why West Point was laid out the way it was, and he
Mhm.
said basically they watched where the people walked and they put the sidewalks in there. So,
where they go.
yeah, where they go. So, for the kids that are coming
Right.
across from Forest Knoll or from Village, I think, it makes sense to do something. I don't know what the right thing to do is, but it makes sense to do something.
Is that our responsibility as selectmen as opposed to the school board?
Yes, you control the roads, speed
Okay.
limits.
But public safety regarding children when they're out of school would fall under not under them. Okay. I don't want to step on their toes. Probably be worthwhile asking Gail's opinion, having Chris ask opinion about creating a school zone. Assuming that he thinks that's something worth considering, we ought to get her input to it as well.
Okay,
Would that, just one more point about that, would it be prudent, I guess, to look at the pedestrian study stats as far as people walking, whatever, so you might incorporate some of those things?
Facts, never heard?
If
Yeah?
part of the discussion tomorrow.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Anything else for public safety?
Buses and idling.
Buses and idling buses. Yeah.
They're-
Are these the mountain buses?
No, these are commercial buses.
Commercial buses.
Primarily at the Silver Fox.
Ah,
They have a lot of bus groups there. As I provided in your packet, there is a state law on bus idling, but it only applies to school buses. There are regulations, DES regulations, that limit how long the idling should last, but those are not state laws, they are a state agency's regulations. And any bus that is idling to either heat up or cool down for the passengers are exempt from those DES regulations. So as Dave put in his email, Dave Noyes put in his email, these are commercial buses and they're probably either heating up or
cooling off
cooling
the
off.
inside.
So and we do not have any town ordinance on idling. If you want us to investigate it, we will, but
I don't know how we can enforce it, because it's gonna be one of these things where all the buses are usually doing what they're doing.
now we did have a situation a few years ago where we had 18-wheelers that were idling in the parking lots overnight and for extended hours, and we did stop that.
Yeah.
Was that because people were sleeping in them?
I think it was mostly a cold weather thing that he didn't want to plug it in or go out and start it up several times during the night, so he just left it running. But we did put a stop to that because that was
I am not looking for something else to regulate,
fine
personally.
if that's what we were.
I'm not aware. Well, who complained? Somebody complained?
Yeah, Mrs.
Beth.
Reynolds. Beth Reynolds.
Yeah,
Oh.
she's a runner. That's the only thing I can think
Oh.
of, is that the exhaust was bothering her when she was running by.
I mean, we've had other people mention it, but it
Yeah.
hasn't been a formal complaint. It's, there have been noise issues before, so we've asked the bus drivers to move buses sometimes if they're bothering people with the noise of the engine running.
Okay. Calendar, our next meeting, you want to just go over our next meeting?
August 13th is the next scheduled meeting.
There is I don't know yet, there is a chance I will not be here August 13th, but I may have to go to San Francisco.
I have
Just don't know.
I have a conflict on that day, because I'm gonna do Rise Up Singing, and we're in rehearsal that whole week.
Oh, you signed up.
I did.
Okay.
Once again, I have nothing in my life.
You have golf.
Maybe I was gonna wash my hair that day.
Well, it's more, it is, I'll know in another, by the end of the week, whether
Okay.
I'll be here on the 13th or not. If I'm not, should we try to move it to the 6th or something?
Do we need a meeting is the question.
I don't know.
No.
Could we do potentially August 20th and not
One for
have
the month?
just one for the month?
I won't be around that week either,
You won't.
because my niece is getting married out in Ohio,
Okay.
so doing the Ohio trip that week.
Aha. Well, better you than me. Okay.
So I could do either the 6th or the 27th.
Why don't we leave them the way they are, and I'll determine whether I'm available on the 13th. I think I will be. I'm guessing it would be the week of the 6th that I'd be gone.
Okay.
But I don't really know, and as soon as I know, Mark, I'll get in
Okay.
touch and we'll figure out what we're going to do.
Sure. And we're going to leave the 27th, that's okay on?
Yes,
Yep.
we'll leave it on the calendar.
Okay. We may have a bid to award on the well
Mhm.
site, if we can get it out to bid.
Okay.
So either that or the first meeting in September is what we're targeting.
So old business garage, so we're going to build, gonna encapsulate the
They
gray
have-
soil and build
They
on.
have buried, they've removed all of the contaminated soil that they are going to. They've brought in clean soil, and they're in the process now of layering that on and compacting it. As soon as they're done, our contractor will be back in, that'll be Monday. And we will resume utility installation and construction on the garage.
All right.
We are, right now we are looking at being able to put the bus or the trash truck in the new garage by the end of September.
Okay.
Which we need to be able to do because the new ambulance should be on site by then. And then they will have the rest of the building completed by the beginning of November. So that's the schedule that we are on right now. So we will be 100% into the building by the beginning of November.
I kind of like, just an observation, the trash receptacles up above as opposed to down below. I mean, they're hidden, they're, no, I don't know whether they're interfused with your stuff, but certainly no more, less convenient. I mean, inconvenient to drive up there. I noticed that a bear got in one of them the other day.
Yes,
they opened the door up and climbed right in.
Bill
Big
said
pile up
it's,
there this morning, too. Big pile outside this morning as well.
people just fail
Yeah,
to
put
look
the-
at it.
yeah. Well, when the gentleman who's taking a look at the trash thing, we'll need to come back and
Yeah.
do that. We need to remember that the bears are not stupid. All right. Anything else in the garage?
No, I think that's it on the garage.
Water lines?
Water, they're doing about 100 and 120 feet per day on average. They've had days as high as 190 feet. So they're going along at what they expected. We have hit a lot more very large boulders than we had anticipated. There will probably be some cost for rock. We do have a line item in the budget for rock disposal. So we're not going to be able to cast off all of those big rocks.
And he thought about putting them into the Mad River.
Yes, we actually have, and we're gonna try to use as many of them as we can, as riprap along.
No, I
the
was
edge.
thinking about the
The
replacing
stone.
the
The stone
undersized
pile.
stone in the Mad River Trail.
I think they'd be too big for that,
Yeah.
but we are gonna try to use them as riprap to
Okay.
protect the shoreline.
So how far have they gotten now? Have they actually dug a
They're-
trench and put in?
Yeah, behind my house.
They're
They're
almost
behind
behind
your
his house, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
And-
they're
and,
past my house.
They are good.
And the electrical conduit, well, at least the trench for the electrical conduit. So I'm assuming
Yes,
the
the
two
electrical-
lines are joining up,
Yeah,
right?
They will.
Yeah.
The electrical conduit is in on that little extension beside Bill's
Yeah.
house. And then we're coming up from well house 2.
Any resolution on the meter dilemma with the electric company?
No, we have a meeting on Friday
Okay.
with the Forest Service. Because we're.
Why does the
gonna have-
Forest Service have anything to do with this?
Because they own all the land where we would have to put an additional, we may have to put 1 or 2 additional transformers, and it would all be on Forest Service land.
I
So we
thought
have
the
to get
issue
their
was we had to buy a very high price.
Well, because we don't want to incur those high costs, both in infrastructure and in monthly costs, we are looking at other options that'll cost less. Those options mean transformers, because we have to step power up and down. If, to put those transformers in, we will have to do that on Forest Service land. So we have to find out if there's gonna be any additional permitting required. So, again, I won't know until Friday morning.
So the electric company have they commented on the thought of possibly just charging us a flat fee and not meter? Have they said that's out of the question, you must meter?
Yes, they require a
And we
meter,
asked, though,
whether,
and we asked and said, look, we're incurring a cost here that far exceeds the amount of electric we're using.
right,
I mean, no logical person would say you have to spend $1,000 a month to measure $100 a month worth of usage. No reasonable person could take that position that that's a smart thing to do. We'll give them $200 a month.
I have not asked that question.
I think you got to ask that question.
Okay,
We'll just pay more. We'll double the rate. We'll do something. But
all right,
it's just,
I will ask.
okay.
I asked them why we had to spend $900 a month on, I asked the question, well, it's because that's our rate structure. And I said, well, you know how much or how little we're going to be using
Right.
this service. Why are we, even if we had to pay the initial $30,000 installation fee,
Right.
why would we have to pay the $900 a month? Well, because that's our rate structure. So, I will ask a question.
Ask
as
the
to whether
question.
or
If
not-
they want to make an argument that that it's because it covers a portion of the infrastructure, what you're proposing to do with transformers is what? We step the power down so we can go to a cheaper meter, and then step it back up again?
The other way around, actually.
Okay.
We step it up, and then we can put in thinner wire out to the site, and
Right.
then we have to step it down on the other end.
And that results in a cheaper meter?
And that is a secondary service, yes. Instead of a primary service, which is what we were originally planning to install.
It sounds like
it's
engineering
ridiculous.
make work to me.
It is, I agree. But it isn't like we haven't talked about this for 2 years, so
Right.
that's my frustration.
Okay. Anything else on the water lines?
No, we're very close to getting the bid out, as I said, for the actual well
Well,
and the building.
so the
That's the last
well
part.
in the building out by the well,
Correct.
is
And-
one step?
And renovations to well house 2.
Oh, they're all going to go out
That's
in
all
one bid?
going out in one bid.
Okay, fine. Okay, good.
We're very close to that. Hiltz has been very good to work with.
They got big equipment, I'll tell you that.
They have big equipment and they're very good at it, so. The resident engineer has been very impressed. Water meter installation, all of the meter pits are in. He has some restoration and some paving that he has left to do from those pits, but everything, including the manifold and the big meter at Forest Knoll, is installed. So, as far as internal installations, we are continuing that. Tyler Spring, I put in here that we've completed installations. We have completed those who have given us permission to go in. We have 2 at Tyler Spring left that we either haven't been able to contact. Sharon can explain how she's handling that.
One of the 2 is out west, as we heard through third party. The other one did receive, was supposed to contact Will
Yeah,
and let him know that it was okay from him, so really it's just one.
yeah. So we've got the one person we can't get a hold of. And then in Forest Rim, how many do we have?
Forest Rim, there was 12, 13.
But we've done everything that people have said we can go in and do.
Yes. Yep. And as far as other responses from High Country, we're missing 11. North Base, we're missing 18. Noon Peak, 9. Boulderwood, 2. So it's been a pretty decent response, and once they get another plug from their association or property maintenance, there seems to be a flurry coming back in again. It was perhaps just pushed aside at home and,
We have so far only run into really one person who's had a major issue. I worked with Stephen Whitley, and we have a form letter that we're sending out to the people who say, you know, you're not coming into my unit, period, ever. You know, trying to explain to them that this is a required thing, that we, and we'll keep negotiating. We're not gonna forcibly enter anybody's unit or anything like that. So I'll let you know if those continue to
Okay,
have issues.
well, let's hope that.
So far, only one person.
All right. So that's the water meters, and you're gonna start with homes
Yeah.
soon?
Yep.
Okay. Mad River Trail, so they gotta put another stone in, what's
Well,
the-
they're, Margaret, you look like you want to say something.
No,
but Dan Newton contacted me before he left. He's gone for a month. He's been working with the Forest Service. The stones are moving during high water times. The Forest Service wants to fix this. I don't know what the ultimate resolution is going to be right now, but when Dan gets back, he's going to continue to meet with the Forest Service, and they're going to try to determine if we can put bigger stones in there or how we should handle it.
Okay,
But I know that you folks may be getting people commenting on.
It's easier to
understand.
cross going north than it
I-
is going south.
have you heard from people?
No,
Oh,
I haven't heard from
Okay.
anyone.
Right. Property owner notice letters, what's that about?
You had asked us to notify property owners when we were going into units, and we have. we have a- We have a
yes.
form letter
Okay.
Mhm.
that we are sticking in everybody's doors as we move forward. Also on the commercial properties, I have not sent the letter out to them with those rates, but I will be sending
Okay.
those out this week.
All right,
So that is still on my to-do list.
all right, okay.
You also wanted us to notify folks about the trail closures.
Well,
Dave-
I
Dave-
heard a story,
Right.
and I don't,
Dave's
that's
trying
the
to
problem,
confirm,
that
find out
someone
what happened.
actually got fined $500
Yeah.
for walking on Livermore Road.
For riding his bike on. Mike
Did you heard
Fergal
it?
told me it was a friend of his who was riding his bike
On
on
Livermore.
Livermore Road who got fined $500.
We just need to, for the sake of residents, they need to know that it's not the town, and the Forest Service can fine up to $5,000. Don't go on Livermore Road.
So
It's as simple as that.
we had a Nixle message that went out.
Yep, I
was
saw
worded-
that.
That was
Right.
worded
And
by
that's
the
fine.
Forest Service.
Right,
We've taken that same message and we've posted it on the website and Facebook and trying to get that word
yes,
out.
right, that's all you can do,
Yeah.
is do the best
Okay.
you can to make sure that people that will pay attention see some notice about it. It's confusing on the weekends, because I guess on the weekends you are allowed to use some of the trails,
Yes.
Yes.
but not all of the trails.
Most of the trails
Yeah.
are open.
So
on
even
weekends.
Livermore Road
Yes.
is permissible to
Yes.
walk on Livermore Road on the
Right.
weekend?
Yes.
Okay.
And I would have thought they would let people do it after 6 o'clock at night, but I guess not.
Well, it's just because of the equipment gets left out there during the week, but they
Right.
bring it in on the weekends,
Yeah.
so.
Well, they move it off the
Maybe
trail
off
on the
the
weekends.
trail.
It's still there.
I would have loved to have seen that poor guy trying to issue his son. I mean, if I was on a bike, I would have gotten my bike and drove off.
He's armed, I wouldn't have driven.
Oh, you mean this was the police guy?
Yeah,
They
the
only
police-
have one police guy, right?
That's correct, but he got him wrong.
Did they put signs on the
Place.
road?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Warning signs?
Yeah.
There are warning signs, it's closed, road closed, do not enter. You're not supposed to park in depot camp, right?
That's correct.
Right.
During the week.
Right.
Right. And they don't always take the signs off the Deep
Right.
Woods path or that little
Right.
path that goes by our house.
Right.
That little extension.
Well, I know on the weekends, currently on the weekends they do. Somebody told me they've been taking them down or
Yeah.
whatever. Okay. Anything else on the old business?
Yes, Eric Levy contacted me by email and requested a letter of support from the selectmen. I guess in working with the Forest Service and North Country Council maybe, or whoever she and Gene Mullen have been working with, that they wanted a letter
Okay.
from the board, so I drafted this, just saying
This is
that-
about black flies?
black
Black
flies.
flies.
Yep.
You have a problem?
No. It just says we're gonna take this to the town meeting.
Yeah, I mean, whatever information, you guys wouldn't do anything until you went to town meeting anyways.
Town limits here would be the physical dimensions of the total town, including
Yeah,
Forest Service property?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, any correspondence?
No, but a couple of discussions I'd like to update you on. I've had discussions with Tor and Susan on the dumpster enclosure. They are working on, they're gonna go tomorrow and look for taller metal fencing. They're gonna work with Mike White and get those installed. They understand what needs to be done. I talked to Bill Carr about Town Square, which was a follow-up to
Right.
his discussion with Chris, and supposedly by your next meeting, you'll have a proposal for us.
Before we have people building fences and stuff,
Mhm.
is the purpose of the enclosure is to hide the dumpster?
To screen the dumpster from you.
Screen the dumpster from view.
Mhm.
So whatever fence they put up needs to meet, putting up a chain link fence is not a solution. We're not trying to keep people out of the
That's
dumpster
correct.
enclosure, right?
And they can put up chain link fence
As long as it's
got that
screens.
screen.
Right, okay.
Yep.
I would hate to see somebody go to expense to put a fence up and then.
No, they
say-
understand what needs to be
Okay.
done. We are gonna have an issue in that enclosure on the lower level of Town Square.
Right,
There is no practical way, because the width is so long, that the doors have to be so long that they can't be supported, as you guys saw. And there's no way to put a post in the middle, because then you reduce it down to a 2 dumpster enclosure if you put a post in the center. Because then, you can't get the truck in. So that one is going to be problematic.
So they can't do 2 doors
I
that.
don't know, even with a chain link type fence, I don't see them being able, so we're gonna need a decision on how we're gonna proceed with that.
okay.
But he's working on seeing if he can find some.
What about the thing that they asked us about up on the ski mountain?
Yeah, the
cable.
cable.
I have not heard back from the Forest Service. Paquette's been on vacation, so I have not heard anything.
But the
That-
issue that we had raised at the meeting was to contact Time Warner and ask just the question, because I have certainly no problem with it. Does this in any way affect
Right.
cable service?
Right. I have not gotten that answer.
Oh, okay,
But I will email you
fine.
with that. Bill Cantlin, I brought the map on the boundary line adjustment with Waterville Company for the area down by
Right.
the new garage. He has a question for the board on this part. He'd like to know if you would be willing, we can do all of this as a boundary line adjustment with the planning board. he wants to know if this area, if he could, in that boundary line adjustment, do this as an easement until this land is developed, and then it would transfer to the town. And it has something to do with shoreland protection, and I don't know if...
Does it have to do with lot size?
It might. It might. But his question was, will you be willing to do it as an easement until the development happens?
I'd have to, I'm gonna kind of refer this to the paper. Here's the concern I have. Is that because he wants to claim he's got 2.5 acres of land, you know, and then we say, yeah, here's the approved lot sizes, and then we give this chunk away, and all of a sudden we got undersized lots. I don't think we should be making a move that would authorize undersized lots. If it does have something to do with the Shoreline Protection Act, I'd just like to know what it is.
Okay.
I'd have less objection there.
Okay.
But if it's a way of getting around our lot size restrictions, then I think I'd ask the planning board to comment a little bit before we went ahead.
Do you want it just as an easement and not have any land transfer with this piece? Similar to what we do around Corcoran Pond with the easement? I mean, he
It's
retained
his property.
ownership.
I don't know why he's anxious to give it to us.
I've never
don't
discussed
know.
this with him, I have no clue.
I don't know why he's anxious, you know. Yeah, he's got every right. It's his property. I mean, he doesn't have to give it to us. I mean,
well,
would we make the other adjustments if he didn't do that thing? My guess would be we would,
yes,
we'd allow
I
the
think
other
the
two
other
adjustments.
two adjustments
regardless
are,
of that one.
Right.
He was the one who suggested that we wanted to take that.
Well, my only issue.
I don't want to do it if it's going to end up, and I don't just think it is, but if it's going to end up with screwy-sized lots down there in the future, and somebody wondering why did the planning board violate its own rules, then I think twice about it. But
Well, my only thing in the last 12 years, the issues that we have run into with easements, rather than having an actual deed to the town, the easements get murky as to who owns what
yeah,
in the future. Unless you have something that is an actual transfer, it just makes it a lot cleaner, and this is the town's land, this is the Waterville Company's land.
yeah. I just don't know why he wants to what in the Shoreline Protection Act is in his mind saying, I ought to get this off of my books and onto your books. I don't know.
I don't know why, what would be any different for us or him. It isn't like it's any regulation that we would be
Well, he
exempt
may be
from.
aware of a regulation that he's in violation of that we end up then having to clean up.
Okay.
We certainly ought to ask him that question. Are you knowingly in violation or have any issue with the DES regarding that piece of land?
Okay.
If so, I think it's his responsibility to get it fixed, not ours.
Yeah,
If there is an issue, I'm not suggesting there is.
sure. Bill Carr and I have a meeting next week on the signs. So at the next meeting, I'll be able to update you.
This is the famous sign over on,
Multi-business sign.
multi-business sign,
And the
yeah.
two big signs at the end of III.
I think we ought to just request nicely that they try to clean that sign up. I'm not sure, given the fact that it is on their property, it's not on our property, whether we have any jurisdiction over that sign.
It's either on state right-of-way or it's on national forest.
Forest
property.
And I don't know whether do our regulations cover their
Yes.
rights of ways?
Yes, our sign ordinance, we permitted that sign going in.
Oh, we did.
When the sign was initially put in,
Well,
Tom
is,
Day went, talked to the state, they okayed it, from their perspective, and then he got a permit from the town for
Huh.
that sign.
okay. Well, let's see if we can at least get the business right.
Actually, his sign up at the ski area is permitted by the board too. He is subject to our zoning.
Well, I understand that they're
except for the
subject to our
land use.
zoning, but what I can't figure out, is that an on-premise or an off-premise sign?
Yeah, is it on
Because the
his-
rules are different. I mean, is that on, the one going into the ski area, is that on-premise?
It's.
I don't know.
I would say it's part of his special use permit.
Yeah.
Then it
I
would
would
be
say that's
on-premise.
on-premise.
Right.
Yeah.
It would be on.
The one down by town hall, I would say would be off premise because that's probably not part of his
But if
special
he-
use permit.
But if he's got the special use permit, it goes all the way down the road, which he might.
He might.
They're talking about the huge master plan develops
Right.
all the way down
Right.
the road.
Right.
Then
So he may-
it could be on-premise. It's just that the rules are different.
Yep,
Okay.
okay. The final thing is a non-public. I just want to update you on a financial.
Before we go into
Discussion.
non-public, I did just from the follow-up list is the other item.
Would you like
Did
to-
you, you'll have to in a second, you're more than welcome to. The Wyman's property,
We have not gotten any response.
No
We have-
response yet from
We have
the
the
Wymans?
card that he signed for it, but no response.
and how much time are we giving him before we,
30
The
days.
end of this month.
Yeah.
end of this month, at which time we're going to do what?
Starts fining him. Did we define the fine in the letter?
Yes, we defined the fine in the letter.
We did, okay.
So it would be now a notice to him that he's being fined.
Okay. And the last one I have is, did you ever get a chance to check with the Forest Service about the possibility of the land swap on the Brock's property?
I have not talked to them
All
about
right,
it.
so
I
get
need
that
to-
on your
I need
list
to-
and,
Yep.
it's no big priority, but
Yep.
if, in my wildest dreams, if we could ever pull that off, that would
Yep.
have an unbelievable impact on the town.
Yeah.
Not that I think we can, but you never know. Stranger things have happened.
Yeah.
Oh, and the last thing I had, I would like to suggest, that what we need to do relative to this vote on dogs at the last town meeting is I would like to hold a public hearing not on the question of should we or should we not put dogs on a leash. I mean, I'm not interested in that. But how would we ever enforce? What is a practical way to enforce the issue of the concerns that have come up relative to some people being afraid of dogs that are on the loose? How would, if we, for instance, passed an ordinance, would we even enforce the thing? The people have suggestions as to how we might do that. Because my problem with passing the ordinance is I don't know how in hell's name we're ever going to enforce it.
No, I completely agree with you.
Right.
It's ludicrous.
I don't want to debate whether we need one.
Right, that's not the question.
The question is, what would it look like?
What would it look like?
And how would we enforce it if there ever was? Because I don't know how else to do it other than have citizens turning other citizens in.
But a lot of the stuff happens with, what we've learned from our reports is it's non-citizens who are the violators of this thing, and they're transients.
Right.
So by the time you get the report, you've got it was a poodle.
It was a,
Right.
Not to.
I don't
It
know
was
what to
poodle
do.
on Saturday morning.
And the guy had a beard.
the pool
And
escape
I am
on
concerned
Saturday.
that we're going to pass an ordinance,
Right.
and then people are going to be, wow, we got this ordinance.
How can
Well, who's going to enforce it? Are we going to hire a dog control officer?
We're gonna need a
I mean, are we going to have a
24/7.
policeman do this?
Because this stuff's happening on the trails, it's happening,
Right.
Well,
most
the
of the stuff I
trails
hear
are
is.
off, the trails are Forest
But that's
Service.
where I'm hearing most of the incidents coming from.
There's nothing we can do about
Is
it.
they're
They-
walking on trails and someone's dog runs up to them and scares them.
Well, the
It's
trail
not
thing
happening in
is.
town square, it's not
it's
happening.
beyond our control.
Well-
That's Forest Service, and they allow you to have a dog off leash. They allow dogs off a leash as long as they're under control. That's what I've been told, that they do not require you to leash your dog. So Margaret, are you Is it okay with you if we
Oh,
at least
yeah.
have a discussion about
Absolutely.
how we might do this? Because I'm at a loss to understand
Yeah,
what we would do.
and I am too.
I don't even want to attend this sideshow.
I'd be more than willing to try to chair this lively discussion, but I'll be very, very clear that we are not going to debate whether we should
Well,
or
that's
should
what it's
not
going
have
to
an
turn into.
ordinance.
It is going to turn into a debate whether.
Well, then I'll cut them off and say, I'm going home, the meeting's over.
Yeah, no, that's the concern I have. This is, I'm getting this debate in the golf course. People coming in and telling me their feelings and how they're adamant that they want the dogs unleashed because they were scared by a dog 2 years ago.
And what do they want the town, do they have a suggestion as to what the town should do?
I have not heard that
Would
part.
would the citizens support spending $70,000 a year for a pet?
Who has to be everywhere? Who
Has to be everywhere.
Maybe we can get dog cameras. That's the problem.
I don't care which way this whole thing went, but don't other towns have whatever rules of enforcement, whether they're enforceable?
I think big towns go to, they have
Animal control.
a animal control
Yeah.
officer.
And big towns don't have the Forest Service. I think it's necessary for us to have the Forest Service regulations in front
I
of us.
don't know what you do with it.
Before we do anything
Mhm.
else. Because I think that will give some people some idea. of-
I have, there are some towns that rely on citizens turning in other citizens.
Yeah, that's
Where,
what-
well, no, if you've got a problem, you call this number and report
it's
the
right.
incident.
Yeah,
And partially my reaction is if you're not willing to do that, don't complain.
right. But it's, well,
Well,
no, I
that's
agree with
me.
you. It's just,
I don't know what to do with it.
no.
But I don't want to get to next town meeting and we're going to pass an ordinance we don't want.
Well, that we can't enforce.
Right.
Right, right.
Okay, well,
And this
we
might be
will-
worth
Set
having up
something
here
up.
with-
I'm guessing September would be a good time to
Can I
do
make a
this.
suggestion
Yeah.
that we do it the last meeting in August, because there are so many people up here that are summer people that have a
Okay.
voice and they're on this dog thing.
Work
that-
with me.
That people, want to be able to testify and bring
Okay.
their thoughts to this.
Sure. Well,
Because in the winter, it's not as big an issue, because everybody's inside and the dogs are only outside for the benefits of the dog.
For dogs to be dogs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Privilege of the floor too, anything else? Then we are going to ask you to leave.
All right, see something tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah.
So do we need to reconvene again later?
I,
We just have a discussion or do we need to?
I just want to, I had two conversations.
So we don't need to make a motion or anything?
Well, I would prefer that we not do
Film
this.
this or have this in the record.
No, I know.
Yeah.
You want me to close the regular meeting?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's close the regular meeting.
Okay.
Right, there we